Hi, my topic is genetically modified organisms, and my specific purpose is to persuade my audience not to buy or consume genetically modified food and to be more aware of the consequences of GMOs. According to PR Newswire, GMOs are banned or strictly restricted in 30 other countries around the world, and genetically modified organisms are now present in 75 to 80% of conventionally processed food in the United States. If you have ever bought groceries at Walmart, Super One, Albertsons, Kroger, or any like store, you have probably purchased genetically modified organisms. Today I'm going to inform you on what genetically modified organisms are, some of the negative effects of them, and how to avoid them. Genetically modified organisms, or GMOs, and sometimes called genetically engineered or genetically modified, are organisms or microorganisms whose genetic material has been altered by means of genetic engineering. This is when the genetic makeup is altered to create combinations that are not possible through nature or in traditional crossbreeding. Usually GMOs in food are meant to enhance the product. The DNA used comes from bacteria, viruses, or other plants and animals. Most genetically modified organisms are modified to be able to withstand herbicide or to produce insecticide. There is no evidence that states that genetically modified organisms add any consumer benefits to products. The common GMOs include alfalfa, canola at 90% of U.S. crops, corn at 88% of U.S. crops, cotton at 90% of U.S. crops, papaya, which is all of Hawaiian crops, soy at 94% of U.S. crops, sugar beets at 95% of U.S. crops, zucchini and yellow summer squash at 25,000 acres, and other high-risk crops include milk, meat, eggs, honey, and some others, and these are mostly due to contamination in the feed. Some common ingredients derived from GMO risk crops include amino acids, aspartame, ascorbic acid, sodium ascorbate, vitamin C, citric acid, sodium citrate, ethanol, flavorings including natural and artificial, high fructose corn syrup, hydrolyzed vegetable proteins, lactic acid, maltodextrins, molasses, monosodium glutamate, sucrose, textured vegetable protein, xanthan gum, vitamins, and yeast products. The top 10 GMO producing countries include at number 1, the United States producing 70 million hectares of crops, followed by Brazil producing only 35 million hectares, which is a huge difference between the two, followed by countries including Argentina, Canada, India, China, Paraguay, South Africa, Pakistan, and Uruguay. If all of the world's GMO crops in 2012 were combined, it would cover the same amount of land as the state of Alaska. Since 1996, 3.7 billion acres have been used to grow genetically modified crops. To put this into perspective, the land area of the U.S. is only 2.4 billion acres. The crops produced would cover the U.S. one and a half times. Of the 28 countries currently growing genetically modified organisms, 48% are industrialized and 52% are developing nations. GMOs may not seem very harmful, but when you take a closer look, you will learn they are much more harmful to the body and to the environment. I'm going to show you two pictures. This is the first one, and as you can see, it's a genetically modified tomato and an organic tomato, and you can very obviously see the color difference and the size difference. The GMO is a little bit bigger and fatter and not quite as red or plump looking. And the second picture, right here, is the process of a genetically modified lime into a lemon. And you can see each step of the way as it goes. So those are a little interesting to look at. So GMOs have many negative effects, and I'm briefly going to touch on a few of them. Starting out with the health problems of genetically modified organisms. FDA scientists have cautioned that genetically modified organisms can create side effects such as allergies, toxins, new diseases, and many nutritional problems. They have fought for long-term studies to be done on genetically modified organisms but have been ignored. Studies in mice show that genetically modified soy can reduce digestive enzymes and can cause you to acquire allergies to a variety of other foods. The mice that were in the study started to have immune reactions to formerly harmless food when fed Bt toxins. Genetically modified organisms have been found to cause liver problems in mice, such as smaller liver when fed genetically modified potatoes, heavier livers when fed genetically modified canola, and toxic insult when fed genetically modified soy. The lining of the stomach has shown excessive cell growth, which is a cause of cancer in rats. The rats also had damaged organs and immune systems due to eating genetically modified foods. No safety evaluations have been done on humans, and the only published experiment shows that genetically modified soy can transfer into our intestines and will continue to live, meaning that genetically modified proteins produce and live in our bodies long after we stop consuming them, which is kind of scary thing. This can lead to super diseases in the body that are resistant to antibiotics, and it could possibly turn intestinal bacteria into living pesticide. Animal studies show that DNA in food can travel into organs throughout the body and even into the fetus of an unborn child. Some of the environmental factors that must be looked at are stated by the World Health Organization, and they say the risk of outcrossing, which is the transfer of engineered plants to conventional plants in the wild, and this can happen through wind, insects, and pollination. Causes of hybridization in genetically modified plants with non-genetically modified plants, and this could lead to entire ecosystem change with the thriving of the hybrid plants. There's also an increased use of herbicides in crops because the genetically modified plants are made to withstand herbicides, so farmers are adding more herbicides to their crops to keep the bugs away. And Dill says scientists estimate that crops that are genetically modified to be herbicide resistant tend to greatly increase the herbicide use. Knowing that their crops are more herbicide tolerant, farmers are more likely to use these often toxic chemicals more deliberately. Genetically modified plants can cause the death of other organisms in the ecosystem. Studies have shown that pollen from Bt corn has killed large amounts of monarch butterfly caterpillars, and cross-pollination may be the cause of many other organisms vanishing. Another big problem with genetically modified foods are the violation of farmers' and consumers' rights. A major factor in this is farmers whose fields have been contaminated by genetically modified organisms, and they can be sued by the companies that produce the genetically modified organisms. This poses a threat to all farmers and ultimately the consumers. With unintentional contamination of regular crops, it could change the way our food is naturally grown, which is not a good thing at all. So now you know some of the negative side effects of GMOs, and these can be easily avoided by taking just a few simple steps. So how to avoid eating some of this nasty food is just to be aware of where you're shopping. There's organic food stores such as Good Food Store, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, all offer organic products that don't contain any GMOs. Another alternative is to research your food before you purchase it. There's many sites online that you can get on and check to see if the crops have genetically modified things in them. And there's also lists of restaurants who provide genetically modified free meals. Another really simple way to avoid eating genetically modified organisms is there's an app for anybody who has a smartphone, and it's called Non-GMO Project Shopping Guide, and they help assist you in which foods to avoid eating. In conclusion, as you can see, GMOs are posing a great risk in our food in the United States, and this can be solved by the easy solution of people becoming educated and avoiding purchasing GMO food. Now that you know a little bit about the effects of GMOs, you can stop the production of GMOs by simply not purchasing genetically modified products.